A number of years ago, I was in a shul, and at the end of davening, someone just started talking with me, and they started talking about the challenges of davening. And they mentioned that when their children were young, they never bothered their children about the quality of davening. They said, I just made sure my children went to shul. I made sure that they sat in shul. But I didn't make sure that they were davening at every moment. If they were looking in the siddur, if they were looking around, how long their Shmoneh Esrei was. He said, I wasn't concerned about that. And I was curious. I said, well, how did you be mechanech them? How did you educate them if you weren't concerned about that? And he said, look, I am 60-something years old, and I still find myself confused at times as far as tefillah is concerned. There are days where I have great focus, and there are other days where I find myself somewhat lost, where I'm just saying the words and keeping in the routine, but not feeling it as much as I should be. And if I look at myself at 60-something years old and realize that at times davening can be a challenge for me, what do I expect of my children who are just getting used to davening? And at the same time, he said that he also encourages his children to realize that one cannot make davening something that we only turn to when we need it. If we daven on a regular basis and we try as best as we can to connect to our davening on a regular basis, then we'll be able to feel that the words of tefillah are both in our lips as well as in our hearts at all times. The reason why I'm mentioning all of this is that there is a key to our tefillah that is learned from our parsha, learned from the fact that Yaakov said the following to Yosef. He said he gives him, at the end of his life, he said, I give to you the city of Shechem. And we're told, of course, later on that Yosef is buried in the city of Shechem in Eretz Yisrael. Yaakov says, I give to you the city of Shechem, asher lakachti miyad ha'emori, that I took from the Emori, bicharbi uvikashti, with my chereb, with my sword, and with my bow. And Rashi comments and says, what does it mean with his chereb, with his sword and his bow? Rashi says it doesn't mean an actual chereb, an actual sword. Rather, with his chokhmah, with his deep intelligence. And what is the bow? The bow is tefillah. So, bechokhmasi ubisfilasi, through my chokhmah and through my tefillah. Well, why then does Yaakov use the word bikashti with his bow when referring to tefillah? So the Avnei Nezer, the Sachat Rebbe, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, explains as follows. He says when it comes to a bow, the strength of the bow is based on how much a person brings it in the direction of their body. The more a person brings the bow toward them, the further they bring it toward them, closer to them, the further the bow is going to travel. And the further the arrow is going to travel. And so the Sachat Rebbe says, the more depth that we have in our tefillah, not only the more meaningful, but the more powerful our tefillah will be. The more connection we feel with the words of our tefillah, with the ideas behind our tefillah, with what it is that we are asking Hashem for, the further our tefillah will go, closer and closer to Hashem, and hopefully to be accepted and to be answered. That's the lesson that Yaakov Avinu wanted to share with Yosef. Never give up on the knowledge and the understanding that we have a direct line with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sometimes it may not seem so, but many of those times may be simply because we are not bringing the tefillah close enough to our hearts. If we do bring it close enough to our heart, then it'll be able to travel way further than we could ever have imagined. May we be zocheh that our tefillah remains meaningful, palpable, and powerful for us in our lives on a regular basis. Thank you for listening and have a good Shabbos.